welcome to another edition of the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, and joining me today are regulars Akhil. How you doing, mate? Straight from the game.
Hello. Yeah, very good. Very happy.
Good man. We've got JJ.
Hello.
The ladies' man, Tinderella himself.
Thank you.
Right. And yeah. Callum as well, back from... Were you in Scotland the other day or somewhere or something?
I was in the exotic lands of Scotland, yeah.
Great stuff. All right, so we're coming back off a 3-0 win. Pretty routine it turned out to be. And I'm sure a lot of the naysayers will be disappointed to hear that, because prior to the game, all I'd heard was, it'd be typical Arsenal performance, go and beat Man United 3-0, come back from an international break and lose our way against Watford. But it didn't turn out like that. I thought it was a very... Watford started off very well. They tried, they hassled and harried us, but in the end, a comfortable 3-0 win. I'm going to start with you, Callum. What did you make of the lineup and the first half performance? And basically, after a week of the AGM and, all the furore that kicked up, I mean, how are you feeling going into the game?
Pretty good. I expected a close game because I think Watford have started the season really well back in the Premier League, and they're especially good defensively. So, I didn't really have it in my head that it would be an easy game, even though we obviously were coming off the back of two really good wins against United and Leicester. But no, I was pleased with the team. I said beforehand I was really happy to see Alexis and Koscielny in there, especially given their supposed injury troubles. I thought that we wouldn't see either of them actually. Or maybe half expected to see Alexis, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he was rested. But no, I think it was a statement of intent from Wenger that even with Bayern Munich coming up the next few days, the Premier League really is his number one focus at the moment, and rightly so. And I think that was reflected in his team selection. And no, I think he got it absolutely spot on. I actually thought the whole team played really well. And even in the first half, I thought our passing was really crisp. And even if we were struggling to break Watford down, we were defending pretty well. We were moving the ball about quite well. And if Ramsey was in better form, then we'd probably have gone 1-0 up with that chance he had. But no, I was really pleased with it from the team selection to the performance and even the substitutes he made later on. So yeah, a lot to be happy about, I think.
James, how would you assess the performance today?
It's a game of, get the old cliches out quick. It's a game of two halves. Like, first half, we seemed a bit tired and languid, from the international break, as most teams are. And I agree, spot on what Callum said. Coming up from the Championship, they've done really well defensively, but they don't score a lot. Apart from the Ibolo, is it, or something? Ibalo? Is his name?
Ighalo, isn't it?
Ighalo. Yeah, something like that, yeah. Apart from him, really, they don't really score a lot of goals, so I weren't really fretted that much. And, Troy Deeney and all that was throwing hands in people's faces and, pulling shirts and everything. They're a bit of a rough and rugged team, and for a Spanish manager as well, they play a lot of long ball football. It's a bit weird to see a continental manager playing the old long ball football, but they had a few chances in first half. We had a few. Ramsey should have tucked them away, and we all said on Twitter, I saw the convo between yourself and Giles, Callum and everything, talking about how sorry you feel for him, and you just knew eventually he'd tuck one in and get that confidence back, and thankfully in the second half he did. We'll probably touch on that later, but no, the team picked itself really. Gabriel sadly is injured or whatever, he's had that operation this week, so I don't know how long he'll be out for, and it's just the same team really. That team picks itself, and in the second half we managed to turn it round.
We'll touch on the forthcoming games later and what Gabriel's absence might mean for us. But Akhil, you were at the game. How would to us watching on TV, it was a bit. The first 10 minutes were great. Theo looked sharp, and then as the first half wore on, it started to get a bit kind of bitty, and we were basically social media was like, oh bloody hell, we're going to make a real hard task of this. We might not even win. Second half was a different game. How was it for you guys travelling away sport in the stadium?
Yeah, see that kind of surprises me, but I suppose at the same time doesn't surprise me because of the world of social media. But actually, I thought this was probably, and I've been to Newcastle away was the only one I've missed this season so far, and it was actually it was really positive in the stands. Even in the first half, where maybe things weren't quite happening for us, Walcott was, I thought, it was certainly one of his quiet games. But everyone was quite united. There was no, you do get the odd, come on, do this, do that, you're rubbish, or sort of the overreactions. But today I thought it was very fair. It was very the 2,000, 3,000, whatever it was, fans sort of stayed with the team, stayed behind the team. So it was, and that helped. I think everyone saw first half that, we haven't quite got there yet, but we could kind of see that, as long as we play our game, we'll probably win. And I kind of went through the concourse, and it was quite a nice concourse. Well, I wouldn't say nice because there was no beer being sold, but it was in terms of, people were kind of talking, and all the discussions were kind of, about sort of, as long as we play, we should be fine here. I think the one chance they did have first half, Koscielny did really, really well to kind of just slide in and put it out for a corner. I think that was the bit where we were a little bit sort of vulnerable. But generally, obviously I don't know what happened on Twitter and what people are saying, but, in the crowd there was no real panic, and I don't think there was a panic in the team as well. So, it was fairly comfortable. And once we got the first goal, I think Watford sort of dropped a little bit, their heads dropped a little bit, and then obviously we kind of picked them off. So, it was a very professional performance, and I think it was to kind of follow the Man United game. It was exactly what we wanted and needed.
Exactly. Let's focus on the goals now, James. The first goal was scored by
Mr. Sanchez.
10-6.
Yeah.
As Akhil just pointed out, the first goal went in, and then the second goal came pretty soon after. But it was for me, it was remarkable how easy it became.
Yes.
After Sanchez scored. I mean, what did you make of the goal, the build up and everything about it?
Well, I was saying to people, I had a lot of people texting me and stuff during the game about how bad it was going and everything. And I said, look, they're not a good side. They're very good defensively and stuff, but they're not a good team. They're a typical team that we come up against. And, the minute you score one, you're going to get more. That's the kind of side they are. And, I thought it could have been a penalty, but thankfully Sanchez carried on and tucked that in. And, what a ball by Cazorla. Cazorla and Ozil today for me, and I can't take the credit for this, but I saw it on Twitter and I'll repeat it. Him and Ozil, Cazorla and Ozil, they could piss through Cheerios and Wheatos and not get them wet. They're that good. They're that good. They're so good. And
what an analogy.
Yeah, exactly. But Ozil turned 27 last Thursday. He had a massive game against Man United. He had a very good game. I think it was the first one in the friendly against Germany. And, he's finally seeing the fruits of his labour. And, I'm happy for him. And may it continue, because he had a brilliant game today. 84% pass accuracy, made 5 chances, 2 assists. Best assister in the league now, with 6 this year. So hopefully he kicks on. I'm happy. Everyone slagging him off the last couple of seasons, but he's finally, coming into his own. So I'm pleased for him, but yeah.
I did see something, actually, about the Sanchez assist being quite generous to Ozil. I got to see it again on TV, but I think people
looked like it was he didn't actually mean to pass it. I think maybe
it was a tackle. I think. I don't think it was an assist.
Kind of ran into his path, wasn't it?
They all count. Yeah. They all count.
But he set up for Giroud, didn't he, for the second goal?
You know what? And that was actually really, because straight away we kind of sang the Giroud song. As soon as that finished, Ozil's song was sang, because I think people recognised that assist, because a lot of players would have shot then, and I think maybe it was on the right-hand side, maybe on the left-hand side Ozil might have shot on his left foot, but it was just the intelligence of knowing exactly where Giroud was. Honestly, it was a really, really good assist, because most players there would have shot.
Indeed. And then the final goal was scored by Ramsey.
Ramsey.
and no matter how they go in, it's all recorded, and it was a deflected shot, but as you were saying before, James, hopefully now, and as we were saying on Twitter, Callum, hopefully now his form kind of picks up, his confidence picks up.
Yeah.
Because he's always in there. I mean, as you were saying, Callum, the first chance was similar that he missed was similar to and easier than the chance he missed against Man United, and people were getting on his back on social media, and,
I think what disappoints me is that people see those missed chances and they say, well, Ramsey was poor. People are so quick to jump on his back, and obviously when he misses a chance like that, it's obviously you can hold that against him. That's not good play. That's something that, if we'd gone 1-0 down after that, you'd be looking at that chance saying we should be 1 up. This shouldn't be, that has to go in. But I thought his all-round performance was pretty good, and I think he's been doing pretty well for the most part, being played out of position. And that first half, one thing I'd like to comment on the overall performance, something you said earlier, James, about it being a display of two halves, and I think that's kind of a pretty limited way to talk about it, because I think obviously we scored 3 goals in the second half and we scored none in the first, so you look at it and say, well, we were much better. But I actually think the whole way we set out about the game was so different from what we did against United and Leicester, in a sense that they both attacked us, those teams, and we scored 8 goals in 3. We blew them away pretty early on. With Watford, I think we knew they were going to defend well. They'd have a good shape, and we had to be patient, So I think the whole way we played was that, well, first half we're not going to risk too much, and I think you saw that because we never really gave them any chances. They were all half chances, nothing too major, and we just didn't rush anything. And we knowing that when we got to the hour mark or around that period, they would be quite tired from chasing and stuff, and we backed ourselves to be able to produce that bit of quality in the final third to get the goal. And that's what we got, with that Cazorla pass. And, I thought in that first half, Ramsey was industrious, and especially when we were trying to keep our shape and not go too gung-ho and go into Watford's hands. Ramsey was at least still trying to make things happen. And even though obviously you wanted to take those chances, I thought he still plays his part, especially when the first half was kind of out of the game because they were defending well. They had a man on him for the most part, and Cazorla's in a deeper role. Alexis is out wide, so you kind of need Ramsey, who does cut in and he can run at players. And I thought, even though he missed that chance, he was really good, and that kind of tied into the whole performance as a whole, which I thought was really good in a very different way to the way that United and Leicester the games went. So I was very pleased with him and with the performance as well.
The defence, Koscielny was rushed. Well, came back a week earlier than expected from the hamstring injury. Thankfully, we had a few scares earlier on, and in the second half, Mertesacker was caught out. Was helped out by Cech, who was very sharp and came off of his line. And people were saying, "Oh, he's had an attack of the Szczesny's," but he anticipated Mertesacker probably having a problem with Deeney bearing down on him, and he took control of the situation. Ball hit his chest quite clearly, cleared the danger.
It did kind of hit his arm, though. I think you might be giving a bit too much credit there.
If you look at the tweet,
it did hit his arm. I mean, it would have been harsh to give it because it kind of hits Mertesacker's head at the last minute, and he's at that point his body's about a foot away from it, so he can't help it hitting his arm. It was very high up his arm and onto his shoulder. But no, I wouldn't. I would say that he made a mistake there. He should have let Mertesacker deal with it. Mertesacker would have got there first, I think, and if he could have just cushioned it back to Cech, it would have been better. But I don't mind the goalie doing that from time to time, as long as he's
he gets the ball away.
Well, as long as if he's sure. What you don't want is him to come halfway and then confuse the defender. If he comes halfway then stops, Mertesacker might hold back and then the striker runs in and there's confusion. At least he came out and got rid of it in the end, even though I don't think it was the right decision. But
if it was Gabriel, he wouldn't have done it. He only done it because he knew he didn't want to take the chance, and that's what I like about Cech. He's not going to take the chance. He's like, if I feel it's not going right and I'm going to do something to do about it, he doesn't faff around. We've had goalkeepers in the past that would let that sort of thing fly. Cech's not taking chances, and fair play to him. That's what you pay the money for.
Indeed. Akhil, I want to come to you before we go to the stats and listen to questions. Akhil, what did you make of Watford? I mean, it was very bold 4-4-2. I suppose that's how they play with 2 up front. But as the game went on, they seemed to tire. Do you think their formation and the way they played into our hands eventually? I suppose a 3-0 scoreline would suggest it did. But
maybe. I mean, I think it was maybe a 4-4-2, but one of them did sort of drop into. I mean, in most 4-4-2s, one usually drops in when you haven't got the ball, so it turns into a sort of 4-4-1-1 sort of thing. I think whatever formation they would have played, I think quality-wise on paper, Arsenal obviously were the better team. Are the better team rather. I think it was a matter of patience today. I think obviously if Watford had taken the chance, I mean there was. I mentioned it earlier, the Koscielny one when he got there, but it was exactly like the Jamie Vardy goal, the first against us a few weeks ago at Leicester.
Yeah.
Where if he had bent that in, it could have been tried to square it to his man, and obviously Koscielny got back. But if they went one up there, you don't know what would have happened, because at that point offensively we didn't look as great, and I think Walcott was pretty quiet and it wasn't quite happening. So I think we rode our luck at times, but I think it was just quality kind of in the end. And I think when you've got someone like Sanchez, he was giving them problems every single time. And I think him and Monreal have got a really, really good understanding. down the left. I mean, even you kind of see when Sanchez has that ball, when he comes kind of infield, more often than not, you see Monreal overlapping, and perhaps Camera doesn't pick that up all the time. But it reminds me a lot of Gal Clichy, actually. Gal Clichy often used to overlap and wouldn't get the ball, but on it, off camera you could see it. Yeah, it was just. I think Monreal started to do that as well, and even Bellerin on the other side when Ramsey
does it a lot.
I think our shape was good, and I think we kind of knew just to stay in the game, be patient, and the goals will come.
Okay, let's move over to stats. Give us some stats, James.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the ones about the Ozu earlier, but, Giroud, 34 goals, only Aguero has more with 49 in the last 3 seasons. So, people slag him off, say he's not an efficient striker, proof's in the pudding. So, that's pretty much the only one I've got other than the Ozil one I did earlier.
Great plan B?
Yeah, I said on this podcast earlier in the season, I think he's a better plan B than plan A, and I got slated for it in YouTube comments and on my Twitter page. I'm not going to be a gloating kind of guy, so I'll just leave it as it is.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Axe? Great plan B or just horses for courses at this moment in time?
What, with Giroud?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, the game was calling out for Giroud, and I think that even in the stands, everyone was kind of thinking it hasn't quite been Walcott's day. Maybe a year ago, they would have probably slagged him off then, but it was kind of people understood that it just wasn't. The game wasn't for him today, and Giroud came on, played well. It'll be very interesting to see who starts on Tuesday. And then that's sort of another thing, kind of pre-game as well, talking to people in sort of the pubs and stuff like that. I think a lot of fans have now, like the club, they've just thought, you know what, Champions League, forget it. It doesn't matter what happens. We've really got a chance for the league. Let's really go for this league. And I think Arsene Wenger in the AGM hinted at that as well. So it'll be very interesting to see who starts on Tuesday. And I've got a funny feeling it might be Giroud with Walcott coming back on Saturday against Everton. But, it's great to have their options. At the start of the season, we thought we haven't got any strikers. We haven't got enough strikers. Now we think, well, even if Welbeck was fit, would he get a game? Because every time Giroud comes off the bench, he seems to do quite well and seems to get a goal. And obviously Walcott's also done well. So, happy days at the moment. It's just important to keep them fit and keep them fresh as well.
Indeed. Give us some more stats, James.
You want more stats? Oh, blimey. I'm going to have to check your phone.
All right, so that's, what's it? Sanchez has scored 10 in 6. He makes him a full striker in Europe.
We've scored 11 in 3 Premier League games. Not bad, is it?
There you go.
And it's funny. I just wanted the point on that is I remember at the beginning of the season when we struggled for a few matches, especially in front of goal, and people were like, "Look, we didn't sign a striker. We're not scoring goals. We're wasting chances." And there were so many people that said, "Look, it was like they thought they'd been proven right after that." And I was never really that worried about us being in front of goal because I knew that Alexis would come good, even though the last few games he's kind of surprised me quite how good he's been. Ramsey would eventually get off the mark. Ozil's chipped in. Giroud's been, as we said, good off the bench. Walcott's really stepped up. So I think what's really pleasing is that not only are we now creating the chances, we're finally putting them away. And as I said, as in against United, we kind of flew out the blocks and got the goals really early on. Against Leicester, we hit them on the counter consistently. The goals we scored today, was at least the first couple, we did have to craft them in quite tough situations. The first goal came from a bit of Cazorla brilliance, and people will say, well, we were lucky that the ball fell to Alexis, but either we get a penalty because Ozil's been brought down, or if the defender isn't there, Ozil probably tucks it away. And then, for the second goal, Ozil has the presence of mind to find Giroud, and he has the calm head to put it in with his weaker foot. So, I think it's encouraging to see us. You look at the team now and you think Giroud's going to get goals regularly, Walcott's going to get goals regularly, and Alexis is, and then you've got a few players around them who you all fancy to chip in over the season. And then obviously with guys like Bellerin and Monreal are always getting forward. I mean, there was like one moment in the second half, I think, when Bellerin managed, it might be the end of the first, but Bellerin cut in on the right. It was the first half, and nearly crossed the ball across the box to a Monreal, which says a lot about how integral the fullbacks we have are to our attack. So I just think it's encouraging to see us scoring a big variety of goals. They really are. From Alexis scoring those screamers against United a couple of weeks ago to us kind of crafting goals in and around the area. It's really encouraging, and it bodes well because I think we've seen that we can create chances. We can we look better in defence. I think we might have the best defensive record in the league this season. I could be wrong, but I think I heard that earlier.
You're correct. Yeah, you're
Petr
correct.
Cech's picked up 4 or 5 clean sheets in 9 games. So, without wanting to jump the gun a bit, you look at the team now, and I don't really see a weakness there. In the years gone by, we've always had.
It's early doors.
Well, no, of course it is. But I think what's encouraging is that the way we're playing, and as I said earlier, we've beaten. Whilst we all love the win against United and the wins against Leicester, what I think pleased me a lot the most about today was that we aren't going to have teams attack us like Leicester did, or the way we aren't going to be able to blow teams away like we did against United every week. What's going to happen probably 3-4 games out of 5 is what we had today against Watford, where the team sits deep and we've got to break them down and be patient. And the fact that we did that with such confidence, I think our passing for the whole match was brilliant, even in the first half. And I think there's a real confidence in the team now that if we keep plugging away, we will get the goal. And now that Alexis is in form, especially, you feel like if he gets a chance, he can put it away. And, and I said, it is early doors, we're only 9 games in, but I just think if you look at the team, there isn't that big caveat like the goalie isn't good enough, or the defence is too leaky, or we aren't clinical enough. I do think that we will have ups and downs over the season, but for the most part, the squad looks really balanced and we look good in all areas when we're on good form.
I will say, just on the defence, the plaudits will probably go to the attackers and the goal scorers, but for me, Hector Bellerin was man of the match today. He's 19, 20 years old. He controlled that game. He was so good today, just in everything he did, defensively, offensively. You never question his work rate. The guy will run and run and run, just like Sanchez does. But he was absolutely superb out there.
What's interesting with Bellerin as well is he was on loan at Watford 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
And this is no slight on Watford or Bellerin. I just think it just didn't quite work out for him there. He didn't quite have that breakthrough. But it must have been.
They really rated him though.
They loved him. Yeah,
even today they were talking about him, and he kind of played out wide in midfield rather than right back, which maybe was the issue because he didn't kind of settle in there. But they could see he was a talent, and obviously they were right.
One of my good friends is a Watford fan. He was at the game today, and we were talking about Bellerin before, and he said that even though, because I said Bellerin didn't really play an awful lot, but he said they were a big fan of him down there, and he claims that his time at Watford is the reason why he's doing so well now, which I don't quite buy. But it was great to see him playing like that, and I don't think there's a better right back in the league at the moment. He's up there. He's just so good going forward and generally pretty solid at the back as well.
Definitely up there. Actually, give us a short. You go up and down the country, all the grounds. You go around Europe. What was the atmosphere like over there today? Because on TV we saw the Coldplay display from the home fans when they had the torches and the mobiles. What was the atmosphere like? How was that received?
Yeah, the atmosphere was good today. As I kind of mentioned before, it was a positive atmosphere. There wasn't anything. There wasn't really negativity, or maybe it was just sort of where I was. But usually I'm sort of an away scheme member, and I kind of, with the way it's allocated, the away schemers are all together, so you kind of see the same faces each week. And, bless them, a lot of them are lovely guys, but they don't half like a moan. But today, it seems like it was just a positive atmosphere. I don't remember any really quiet periods. I think we were singing the whole game. I think, when you play sort of a team like Watford, a team like, Leicester even, there isn't that fierce rivalry, so it's kind of a nice day if you're winning. So it was a good atmosphere. There was one bit where the Watford fans got their phones out and had their torches kind of out. It was the stand opposite behind the goal, so behind the Watford goal. And I have no idea what this represents. I even asked a Watford fan at the end, who I know, and he was at the game and wasn't quite sure what it was and hasn't seen it much. But their phones came out and it looked actually quite nice. It looked a bit of the Elton John kind of concert. Yeah, they've obviously got the Elton John stand. But then as soon as Sanchez scored, the phones, you kind of saw them suddenly go away, and then the Arsenal fans started chanting, "You can shove your mobile phones up your backside." So that kind of made it a little bit funny. But then a few more phones did come out, but then the second goal went in, so a few remaining ones just completely disappeared, and there was a bit of a laugh. There was that one effort when the Watford player, it wasn't Deeney, it was the other one who kind of, he went through and he had a bit of pressure, but he completely scuffed his shot, and obviously the Arsenal fans found that funny, and it was a bit of a, she fell over, and what the FNL was that, and all that sort of stuff. So there was some funny moments in the game. Yeah, it was a really nice atmosphere actually, and I haven't sort of said that for a while. When you go to football, it was a very nice atmosphere. So, you know, the trick is to keep winning, I guess, and the atmosphere will stay like that. So, you know, bring on sort of, I think, Sheffield Wednesday is our next away game, and then Swansea away. So, you know, it's an exciting period now. Exciting 2 weeks.
Good. Arsenal in concert. Let's move on to listeners' questions. Callum, what you got for us?
I am going to check just now. I was on the page a minute ago. And here we go. Right. So the first question we have is from Dominic the Gooner, which is at Dominic Gooner. And he says, after great wins against United and now Watford, is the Premier League trophy still the only trophy we should be pushing for?
Good question. Akhil, let's start with you.
Well, it's probably not the only, because we're still in the League Cup. We've still got the FA Cup to come, and we're holders of the FA Cup, so you never want to kind of give up your trophy without a fight. But should it be the main trophy? As I said before, people in the pubs, people, you know, before the game were all talking about it. This is the game that matters. You know, a lot of people were saying that I would happily lose against Bayern Munich home and away as long as we can win today, win against Everton and beat Swansea away. Because I think everyone can see the Premier League's kind of perhaps there. I wouldn't say for the taking, but there's certainly an opportunity in there with Chelsea kind of, you know, stuttering to say the least. Man United being quite inconsistent, even though I think it was a pretty good result for them to Everton. And with City, even though, you know, they won today without maybe Aguero for a while, Silva perhaps, it's certainly there. So I don't think it should be the only one, but it certainly should be the main one. But you know what, saying that, Arsenal will probably go and be Bayern Munich and make it even more confusing and complicated. But I would agree. I think it should be the main one.
I think with regards to the way the Premier League is set out this season, you know, you do get years like last year with Chelsea and then United in 2013 where they just run away with it. And that seems to happen. It's quite cyclical. There does seem to be a year every other year or every 2-3 years where one team is just miles ahead of the rest. The other teams can't get their shit together. And really, it's all over by the turn of the new year. I think this year, I still think City are the favourites and they've got the best squad. They spent the most money by some distance, but I don't think they'll run away with it. And I think that we will be there or thereabouts, as will United. I think when you look at the table now, you know, City are on 21, we're on 19 each, us and United, and then you've got Liverpool, I think, on 13 points, Chelsea on 11 maybe. So there's a gap there, and I do think that, you know, Chelsea will improve, but I do think that the three going for the title will be the top three now. And I think it's got to the point now with 2 FA Cup wins. That's the next logical step for us as the Premier League. You know, if we are going to progress, we've got to get a serious title challenge under our belt, and Wenger isn't going to have many more chances to do it, to actually win the thing. So my kind of feelings about Europe is really quite, you know, I enjoy the matches, and when we win, it's nice. But you know, when we lose a European game, it doesn't bother me half as much as it does when we lose a Premier League game. I think because, you know, when you lose a Premier League match and you see other rivals winning, you see them putting up points on us on the table. You know, that feels a hell of a lot worse than in the Champions League when it's just kind of, especially when we have I don't think any of us really think we have a chance of winning it, and I don't think the squad is good enough to fight on 2 or 3 fronts. You know, I'm all for us going for the FA Cup again, League Cup, you know, but I would rotate the squad in most competitions. You know, it's early in the season, so by all means go for it against Bayern, but I'm not going to be too upset if we get knocked out early on.
James and then Akhil. James.
Yeah, you know, I think Premier League should be the main focus, and it seems that is the main focus, but I want to go for every trophy. You know, I'd rather, you know, try our best and lose than not try at all, which I sort of feel in the Champions League we've sort of done the first 2 games, certainly.
James, would you be happy then if we overplayed some players in the Champions League or even in the Europa League if we end up in there next year, and then as a result players get injured or are too tired the week and we lose a Premier League game? I mean,
these are international calibre players. I know they get tired.
That doesn't make a difference though.
If you can't play 2 games in a week, then you can fuck off.
James, that's such an antiquated opinion. This kind of like, 2 games a week, what is that? It's indisputable that, you know, there's a reason why, you know, if you look at the teams... If you
want to be a top draw footballer, you have to play 2 games in a week. That's how it's been.
James, I know that, yeah, but it's reality though. I don't care if you say... I think be able to do it. No, let me just finish. They should be able to do it. Maybe they should. I can get the point. But whether you like it or not, it's proven with so many teams that when they've come and played European football in the week.
There's rotation, and then there's taking a piss.
Their win percentage is always poor at the weekends. It always is. That's always just the way things are. That's the things you've got to deal with when playing in Europe. And you can say the players should be able to do this, should be able to do that. But the reality is, the more times you play the players in midweek, the less chance they have of doing well at the weekend. That's just the way things are, whether we like it or not. So it's all well and good saying, play the best team for every game, or a little bit of rotation, not much. But the reality is that we'll suffer from it.
Well, you know, the League Cup against Sheffield Wednesday is going to be a rotated squad. I understand that. FA Cup, it depends on the draw. It could be a rotated squad. But Bayern Munich, I don't want to be embarrassed anymore. I'm sick of being embarrassed. Zagreb, we were embarrassed. Olympiacos embarrassed. I don't want to be embarrassed again in Europe.
But over the course of what I'm talking about, you said that we should go for every competition full throttle.
Yeah, we should. We're Arsenal.
Yeah, but I don't care. That doesn't mean anything. Saying we're Arsenal means absolutely sweet.
Well, it means a lot to me, Giles. Akhil, does it mean a lot to you too?
That doesn't mean anything. And you can dump your chest, kiss the badge, whatever. It means nothing. You have to be. It
means a lot to me.
Prioritise. Of course it means a lot to me as well, James. But that doesn't mean it's stupid though to go into it saying we're Arsenal. We should, and then based on that should have any kind of sort of. Your reasoning, part of it is, we're the Arsenal, we should go gung ho.
Yeah, we should.
No, we shouldn't. You should be saying.
I think if you look at sort of the English Premier League over recent years, the intensity has certainly increased. Chelsea, champions last year, went out to Paris Saint-Germain. What was it, in the quarters? Was it? Yeah. And then their run-in was basically the league. They even the FA Cup. I can't remember. They lost to Bradford, didn't they? So they weren't even in the FA Cup. The year before, City were champions, and City, as we know, have never really had a run in the Champions League. Same year, Liverpool nearly won it, also not being in Europe. So I think it's of course we want to go for every competition. I think Arsene Wenger's quite a proud man. He'll always go for every competition, and we know how highly he rates the FA Cup. But I think it's a matter of the league potentially is there to win. And at the AGM, it was said that the Premier League's number one priority, then it's the Champions League, then it's the FA Cup, then it's the League Cup, or even actually top four comes kind of before the FA Cup potentially. But I think that's kind of the priority. I think, against Bayern Munich we will play our strongest team. But if kind of Laurent Koscielny's perhaps after today is 80%, he can play, but there's a bit of a risk. I think he would think, okay, if it was Everton in the league, I might take that risk. Bayern Munich, we've lost the 2 games. I think we're more likely to win the Premiership than the Champions League. Yeah. I think Gabriel's good enough to play. I think
when you look at the Premier League, though, what the chance we've got of winning it this season? 1 in 4, 1 in 5. It feels like it's a realistic possibility. This isn't just us saying every year we're going to win it. The Champions League, with the position we're in now, we're fucked. To get out of the group would be a huge shock, and then we always struggle in the next round. And I think we always will struggle until perhaps we get a new manager and he focuses more on it, or perhaps we win the Premier League and we get that winning feeling under our belts and we can go on and push on. All I'm saying is that, but in a perfect world, I'd love for us to be like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich and Barcelona and fight on 2 fronts full throttle and have realistic chance of winning both. But it's all well and good saying we're the Arsenal, we should try and win
but there again, they play in leagues where perhaps the intensity
Well, exactly. All the more reason why we should...
City approving,
All the more reason why we shouldn't go gung-ho. And it's all well and good saying we're the Arsenal, we should go for everything. At the end of the season, we end up with nothing. We win neither. And that's all we've had. It's been a problem for a while, and I understand Wenger really wants to win it. I really want to win it. Obviously, it'd be incredible if we managed to get far in the Champions League. And I'm not saying throw in the towel, play Iwobi and whoever, or Spina every game. I want us to play Czech. I want us to play Alexis Özil. I'm just saying, over the course of the season, after the Bayern games, wherever we end up, as much as I'd love to win, even the Europa League I'd love to win or go far in it, at this time when we have a really good chance of winning the league, I think that should be our primary focus, and everything else should take a secondary. You don't have to throw in the towel in any of the competitions, but this has to be the priority.
Okay, cool. Akhil, you wanted to make a point about something.
I was at a sort of event probably a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, and Per Mertesacker was there, and he was kind of talking about the league campaign, and he was kind of saying that certainly till Christmas, as a team, they kind of, Arsenal, and I suppose all teams probably deal with it in small sections. So the international breaks are kind of what they use. So you have that first international break in September that we've already obviously had and gone, and you kind of target your points, and the same again in October. So I presume they'll be looking at the fixtures kind of till the November break, and we've got We've obviously played Watford today. We've got Everton at home. We've then got, I'm talking about the Premier League, then we've got Swansea away, and then we've got Tottenham at home. They're the 3 games before the November international break. And I don't know what the target is. Hopefully it's 12 points, obviously, out of the 4 games. But that's kind of, I think, how they're looking at it. And then after that, November till Christmas time, they'll kind of look at that. And then obviously they've got a big game in the middle there against Man City. They've also got Southampton away. So I think the league they're kind of sort of baby steps.
Segments.
It's obviously game by game, but segments in terms of. I thought that was very interesting the way Mertesacker was saying, and then he goes after Christmas. There aren't many breaks. There's obviously one in March, and there's the FA Cup and stuff. But it becomes then you have to be in it.
A long sprint,
you have to. You kind of that's the business end. So it's just interesting, to kind of see. And the fixtures, we are playing away from home a lot. Against teams kind of in the second half of the season. We go to Liverpool in sort of January. We go to Old Trafford as well in February, end of February. We go to Tottenham away in March, and I think we've got sort of Man City kind of
somewhere in between. Okay.
May, so it's a tough end.
Cool. All right, Callum, another question.
This question comes from SharkLord2 on Twitter, and they ask, if Hector keeps his form up, how would we hide him from Barcelona? I don't think we can we?
Well, he said he loves it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to get over this. He's broken through. He's happy. You can spend your whole life worrying about where our players are going to go next, but the whole, what we want is to attract the best players, and inevitably, when you attract really good players and they're playing really well, there will be attention from other clubs. And Bellerin, I don't think he'll be here forever, but I don't think his departure is imminent either. Dani Alves signed a new contract for Barcelona, and they signed that Alex Vidal as well. And he's shown no signs he wants to leave. So I think people need to just chill out and enjoy him. Enjoy him, yeah, exactly.
James, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's only I hate to be doing gloom. It's only a matter of time. Yeah, he'll go eventually. He's too talented, and if the way things are going, we can all talk hypothetically. He's got a few trophies under his belt already at Arsenal, but when Barcelona come knocking on the door, you leave, don't you? So those chances only come once in a blue moon, and maybe like Fabregas, he'll want to go home. Hopefully, he doesn't go to Chelsea in the end. Let's hope.
That is really doom and gloom, isn't it?
Well, that's the way it is.
but I mean, you look at the players. Like the players we don't worry about leaving are probably the ones that aren't having the best in the best form. Or like Wilshere, we don't really worry about anymore because he's injured. The nature of football is that unless you're Bayern Munich, Real Madrid or Barcelona, you're always going to be, to some extent, a selling club. Like, we're never going to be able to keep hold of all of our best players every year.
Well, I would say, hopefully we tie him down. Look at Everton with Stones this year. They did really well to keep a hold of him. So hopefully, if we can fight him off a bit, then keep going. But eventually it will go.
Exactly, but Stones won't be at Everton probably for his whole career. And if he is, he'll be the exception, not the norm. And it's just not worth worrying about. We don't know what's going on in his head, and it's just not worth. I hear so many people say this about Bellerin. Yeah. People, Bellerin's playing great, but that Barcelona be after him. It's just like, chill out. And also we're at the point now where we're a good team. We can lose players and we can replace them, and we're not selling them every year. So it doesn't feel like when we lose a player, it's the be all and end all. And if Bellerin leaves, it's going to be devastating.
I just think it's the fact that Debuchy. All right, I'm not going to slate him completely. He hasn't looked the man that he was when he first signed him. Jenkinson's conceding penalties and everything else. So
good. Yeah, well, he'll come back next season. We'll deal with it next season. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next question, please.
Stifling debate. Come on.
It's a pointless debate at this, as you're saying, at this point in time. It's a pointless debate. He's not going this season. I'll go next season.
If we do sell him, we'll sell him for a huge sum that can buy in a really good replacement. But it's not even worth thinking about.
All right, next question.
All right, the next question, which is also the last one we've had in, is from Just Nivek, Kevin, his name is, and he says, do you think Wilshere can make his way back into this team? Do you want to go, Akhil?
He's a talented boy, so there'll always probably be a place somewhere. I'm not sure where that place is at the moment. I think it's a bit of a squad game. I know we talked about sort of prioritising perhaps the league, but there are other competitions. There will be other, there will be times when there'll be rotations. So I think he just needs to be fit first. He needs to, kind of get 100% fit. I think he's about a month away from sort of full training, and then it'll obviously probably take another week or two to get in playing again. I think it's just, he has to just see what happens. I mean, Ramsey's playing on the right. He doesn't want to play there. He wants to play in the middle. Santi Cazorla's, at an age where he won't kind of be going for years and years. So there is long term, there is a position there, but he just needs to get fit, just needs to play games, perhaps in the cups, and as and when needed. And I think good players will kind of find a position somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. What about you, James?
Yeah, he just needs to come back, get fit, and bide his time. He's a talented player. Just let your feet do the talking. Hopefully, the off-field stuff sort of shuts down and England don't rush him in, and then there we go. He's like Akhil said, he's a talented boy, and he'll get chances. That's one thing I will agree with. He will rotate at times, so he'll get a time to play.
I think that's actually key, what you've touched on, James, about sort of playing for England as well with the Euros coming. If he does have a really, really good Euros, then that can really improve his confidence, and it comes down to fitness, of course. But I think Roy Hodgson really wants him to play that whole sort of in France. So we'll see what happens.
I think what's interesting with Wilshere as well, interesting but also quite depressing, is that we saw a glimpse of perhaps what his role at Arsenal could be towards the end of last season, where he was having cameos off the bench and looking really good, and then he was starting to get into the team a little bit. There was a bit of rotation, and I think that's probably, unless he can get a few years under his belt of no injuries or no long-term injuries, that'll probably be the role for him, because every time he looks like he's going to break into the team, he gets injured, and then inevitably someone else comes in and looks the part. You think, Cazorla and Özil really are the two players that are directly in his position, or Ramsey even on the right, and they're all playing very well. So I think, unfortunately, with Wilshere, I don't think he'll ever be the player we thought he might be when we saw him in 2011. But, when he had that breakthrough season, I don't think he's going to be our Roy of the Rovers, our main man for his whole career. But I do think he will remain a hugely talented player who will be a valuable member of the squad. Whether or not he will be able to hold down a regular place remains to be seen. But, Cazorla might move on in the summer, the age he is, and maybe want to go back to Spain, and we might see Wilshere give him more chances then. But it's probably best just to wait and see what happens when he comes back from his injury. But as the other guys have said, I've no doubt he'll get chances.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the Bayern Munich game. I think they've won their 9th consecutive game, setting history. I think they've set another record over in the Bundesliga. We're on great form in the Premier League. We need 3 points on Tuesday night. I'm going to start with you, James. What's your feelings in your waters?
Well, I don't really know. They sort of stifle against English teams, so it's a weird one. But I reckon it's probably going to be a draw. I couldn't give you first scorers and a scoreline, but I reckon it'll be a draw. I can't really see us tanking them. I can't really see us winning, to be fair. But it's a weird one. They don't do well when they come to England, so I reckon it'll be a draw.
Callum?
I think it'll be an entertaining game, although I just think that Bayern will be too good for us, and there's no shame in that, but I just think the way they're playing, they know how to play against us. They've played us numerous times. I hope it's just a good occasion. I think with what's happened so far in Europe, I think we're kind of resigned to an early exit. Maybe defeatist talk, but I'm not too upset about that, to be honest. And I just like to see us. The reason I want to get into Champions League, because we're not in a position where we're going to win it anytime soon, it appears, is just to enjoy these glamour games. It's why you want us to get into Europe. And I know we almost take that for granted, having been in for 18 years or however long it is. But I just want I want it to be a good game, an entertaining game. I hope we give it a real go, and maybe we can nick something. But for me, they're the best team in Europe right now at this beginning of this season. So it's going to be tough, but I hope it'll be a good night either way.
Axe, the last time Bayern Munich came to our place, they beat us. I think they beat us on the last 2 occasions, haven't they?
They have, yeah.
Yeah. But we're going to need at least 4 points from these 2 back-to-back games, aren't we? Do you think we can get it?
I think we could go through with 7 potentially if results go our way. That would mean winning in Olympiacos. In Olympiacos and at home against Zagreb, and perhaps getting a point from one of the games. I think there is a way that can happen. It comes down to head-to-head, so we might have to beat the other two by 2 goals, but it's kind of complex. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people talking about it kind of the next week or so. I think it'll be an interesting tie. I think it'll be an interesting game. We've obviously played Bayern over 2 legs rather than group stages, and I think sometimes in the second leg they've never quite known how to play. You know, we beat them 2-0 the first year, and I think we drew 1-1. Year before last, so we've kind of haven't actually lost away to Bayern, but at home we've seemed to lose, seemed to lost because it's kind of the first leg. But you know, 2 years ago, Mesut Ozil's penalty, if that had gone in, perhaps a different game. I think the atmosphere will be good on Tuesday. I know Red Action are kind of planning some stuff, and we actually ran into Mark Rindle, who works for the club and stuff, and he was mentioning it as well just now on the train back from Watford. So. You know, I think the players will feel a little bit like the fans that we've actually got nothing to lose. That, you know, I think it helps. The comfort there is that we're doing well in the league. You know, we've got a real shot there. Let's just see what happens in the Champions League. Let's just go for it. If we lose, fine, we lose. Let's just, as Callum said, you know, this is why you kind of want to sort of play football. This is why fans want to go and watch football matches, because you want to watch the best players. I think on a purely selfish way, Bayern Munich away is always a lovely few days with great German beer, so we'll enjoy that regardless. So I think it's just, you know, you see what happens, you go for it, and the pressure perhaps isn't there a little bit because we're all kind of resigned to, you know what, whatever happens. Let's try and win this league. So it might help us.
I'm just looking at some of the results from the last 2 games. Tony Kroos scored in the 7th minute in February when they came and beat us 3-1, and also I think when they beat us 2-0, it was another Tony Kroos. It's going to be difficult to stop all their talented players, especially Lewandowski. He went on a fantastic scoring run until today. And obviously you've got Thomas Muller, who's playing brilliantly. You've got Douglas Costa. They've got so much ammunition going forward. Can we get the ball enough to have a go at them defensively? Because that's where I think they're vulnerable. It will remain to be seen. But I'm really hopeful we can get 4 points from this back-to-back games.
I think 4 points is quite optimistic, personally.
I think we can beat him here and possibly draw over there.
Yeah,
I mean, we're playing with a lot more confidence now.
I'd take 3 wins. No, sorry, 1 win. And going into the last 2 games, needing 2 wins. No, I think what we don't want is 2 back-to-back defeats that really just puts everything. I mean, we could be out by 4th game week if I think if Zagreb or Olympiacos beat each other, or no, if they. Oh, I can't remember the stipulations, but I'd take 1 win from 2 of the games anyway.
I think it could be quite one of those where actually Bayern beat us at home and we actually play better away. I think if they win Tuesday night, they have 9 points. They'll feel quite comfortable that they're through and might, I would say, be complacent, but ease up slightly on the second leg. And you know, backs against our wall. Yeah, is that
backs against the wall?
No, it's been. I come back from holiday today, and I don't even know when I slept last. So it's been a long few days, but you know, you never know what will happen. So,
all right, predictions, Akhil.
It's always the head against the heart in games like this. But you know what? Let's be positive. Let's have that Manchester United type of attitude. Let's pretend Ozil puts the penalty away this time if he gets one. I will go for a famous night in Europe with an Arsenal 2-1 win. but in truth, I think it'll be a draw.
James.
Yeah, draw. I don't know what the scoreline for. I'll fuck it. I'll do 1-1.
Callum.
Arsenal 1, Bayern Munich 2.
I'm going with Akhil, mate. I think it's going to be one of those Barcelona nights where we, the Arshavin. We're going to have a rerun of that, but it's going to be Ozil or Alexis or someone. I think it's going to be 2-1 Arsenal.
You know what it'll be? It'll be one of these nights where I'll be like, do you know what? I don't care because we're already out, and I just want to enjoy the game. Anyway, then the game will 5 minutes before the game, when the atmosphere is brilliant, and I think, fucking hell, it's Bayern Munich at home. This is going to be good. Then we'll start well, and we'll get our tails up. I'll get excited, and then I'll be hooked. I know what it's like, and then we'll probably lose 2-1. That's normally how it goes. So I'm not that pessimist. I do think we'll lose just because it's Bayern Munich. You know, there's no shame in saying we're going to lose to the best team in the world right now. But yeah, as you said,
gone.
There's that level of sort of, you know, just winning a big game, regardless of if we go out of Europe. I think just beating them in one of the games would be so big for us, you know. We kind of went out to them a few years ago, but won away 2-0 and went on a big run. We overtook Spurs, who were 7-8 points in front of us. You know, the confidence big games gives is just so huge that, you know, even one win would just be, regardless of what happens in Europe, it might help our Premier League form as well, and it will just, you know, so. It's a weird game, isn't it?
It'd be interesting to see what the atmosphere is like beforehand. I know, as you said, Red Action are planning something. They said telling fans to get there 10 minutes before the game. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But also, Bayern Munich are planning their own boycott. They're boycotting their stands for the first 5 minutes of the game because of the price of the
tickets. So that's quite interesting because last time Bayern came here, the club kind of paid a percentage of the ticket, so they kind of charged, I think, 50%. So from the £64 or whatever it was, I think they paid about £30, something like that. So their fans paid a lot less, and obviously PR-wise, it was a really, really good thing to do, and it was all over sort of football. But obviously they've kind of thought against it this time, so it will be interesting. I think they've said they're not going to come in for the first 5 minutes, which you know, it's kind of fair enough. You know, German, obviously football is so different, and they're used to paying a lot less, and you know, anything that helps ticket prices, you got to say it's not I think anything personal towards Arsenal. I think it's the entire game. So, you know, if they're going to do that, fair play to them, good luck to them. But you know, they might miss a Lewandowski hat trick in that time.
Interesting. It shall be interesting. Okay. On the day that Arsenal cemented, I think we're still second place, aren't we? In the Premier League table, and everything looks hunky dory. Wenger asked by the Sky Sports reporter, "Have you made your mind up about the decision of your contract?"
This is your last contract.
He said, "Not yet, no." So,
was that you playing it in the background to remind yourself? Was it?
Yeah, I don't know if that comes through, but basically he was asked if this was last year of his last contract. He said he's not sure. So let's see how that pans out. I want to thank everybody for coming on. Akhil, I know you've been in Dubai. You haven't had any sleep. You've got to the game. Come on tonight. Thank you for coming on.
No problem at all. I've enjoyed it.
Cool. JJ, as always, thank you for coming on.
No worries. Thank you, mate.
And Callum, as always, a great debating. I know you don't want debate stifled, but you were great.
No, I'm just kidding, mate.
All right, so thank you. That's been a Gooner Ramble. Catch us on iTunes, on YouTube, SoundCloud, through the website www.goonerramble.com. I've been Giles, your host. They've been great. Thank you, and up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.